So, what happens when you actively reject society's traditional rules to live, entirely on your own terms?
Right.
Like you tear down all the fences,
Right.
but then you discover that the brand new rules you just wrote, well, they're being used against you.
Yeah, that is the ultimate pioneer's dilemma, honestly.
Exactly.
We always assume that breaking free from a restrictive system is just automatically going to grant us safety and autonomy. But what we often fail to anticipate is that a complete lack of structure simply creates a vacuum.
And nature abhors a vacuum.
Right. Historically, human nature abhors a vacuum. Someone is always going to step in to exploit that unprotected space.
I am so ready to get into this today. But real quick, before we jump in, a really humble request for you, our listener.
Yes, please.
If you find yourself enjoying these explorations, please take a second to subscribe to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, hit that like button on this video, and share your valuable comments down below.
We read all of them.
We really do read them all. And your engagement is exactly what helps the channel grow and allows us to keep bringing you these deep dives.
Absolutely. Your support is the engine that keeps this whole operation running. We appreciate it more than you know.
So our mission today is a detailed exploration of a fascinating, and I mean remarkably ahead of its time, short story by the legendary Munshi Premchand.
Oh, this is a great one.
It is. The story is called Miss Padma, and it's sourced directly from his famous Mansarovar collection. So you are about to step into a complex psychological drama about freedom, the pursuit of love, and really the devastating price of absolute independence.
And, to really appreciate the gravity of this story, we have to look at the era Premchand was writing in.
Early 20th century India, right?
Exactly. Society is heavily patriarchal, deeply traditional. The expectations for women were largely confined to domestic roles, marriage, motherhood.
The standard path.
Right, the standard path. So the idea of a woman stepping outside those boundaries wasn't just frowned upon, it was practically unthinkable for the vast majority of the population.
Okay, so let's unpack this by looking at the protagonist who shatters all of those expectations, Miss Padma.
Yeah.
From the sources we've gathered, she isn't just a modern woman, she is a total titan in her field. But I want to get a sense of just how unusual her success was, how high up the ladder that she actually climbed in this traditional society.
Oh, she has climbed a mountain that most women of her era weren't even permitted to look at.
Wow.
Yeah, Miss Padma is highly educated. She holds both an MA and a law degree.
In the early 20th century.
Exactly. And she isn't just holding a degree to say she has one. She is actively practicing law and utterly dominating her male colleagues in the courtroom.
That is incredible.
The text actually notes that she easily earns over 1,000 rupees a month.
Okay, wait. Over 1,000 rupees a month in that era. What does that actually look like in terms of lifestyle and power?
It translates to unimaginable astronomical wealth.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It means massive estates, multiple servants, total financial autonomy, and significant social leverage. She is entirely self-sufficient.
So she doesn't need anyone.
She doesn't need a family to support her, and more importantly, she does not need a husband to secure her future. And that level of financial independence directly fuels her radical personal philosophy.
Right, because she certainly has a radical view on marriage. Based on her professional dominance, it seems like she looks at the traditional institution of marriage and sees nothing but a bad contract.
A terrible contract.
She actually refers to it as an unnatural bond.
Yeah, she views it as a form of slavery or dependence, just a legal mechanism designed to strip women of their autonomy. And her logic is brutally pragmatic. I mean, she has fought tooth and nail to build this empire of independence.
Right.
In her eyes, voluntarily signing a traditional marriage contract would be like handing the keys to her empire over to a warden. And historically, she isn't wrong to fear that. The legal and social structures of her time would heavily favor the husband. It could potentially subjugate her brilliant legal mind to domestic servitude. She absolutely refuses to accept those chains.
Which makes total sense. She wants to enjoy life strictly on her own terms. But here is where it gets really interesting, because the source material points out a lingering emotional complication.
There's always a complication.
Always. She has the wealth, she has the undeniable beauty, she has her sprawling bungalow and her hobbies, she loves gardening and cultivating exotic plants, but there is a distinct void.
And that void is the driving force of the entire narrative.
Because she's surrounded by a swarm of wealthy, educated admirers.
Wow, constantly. The text mentions lawyers, professors, and doctors constantly buzzing around her. But she sees right through the veneer. She compares these men to bees looking for nectar.
What a striking comparison. Bees looking for nectar. It implies they are just there to consume what she has built.
Precisely. They are attracted to her status, her beauty, her wealth, but it's a superficial attraction. They want the prestige of associating with the magnificent Miss Padma.
Right, the trophy.
Exactly. She perceives this and she rejects it. She craves true dedication and profound emotional partnership, but she insists on having it entirely outside the traditional legal framework of marriage.
So she wants the emotional security without the structural reality.
Exactly.
So she has all these wealthy bees buzzing around, but who does she actually choose to build a life with? Enter Mr. Prasad.
Mr. Prasad.
Now, Prasad is a handsome, highly educated professor, but he is a complete outlier compared to her other suitors when it comes to his finances.
Yeah, Prasad is essentially broke compared to her. While she is pulling in over 1,000 rupees, he earns a mere 200 rupees a month.
A fifth of her salary.
It is a fraction of her wealth.
Why him then? I mean, with all her options.
Yeah.
Why does the brilliant, calculating Miss Padma fall deeply in love with a man who makes 200 rupees?
Well, beneath the romantic infatuation, there is a very calculated psychological safety net at play here.
Oh, interesting.
Prasad represents a safe harbor for her ideals. Because he earns so much less, she subconsciously assumes she will maintain the upper hand.
Ah, so the fear of being subjugated by a wealthy, powerful husband doesn't apply to a man she can financially outmuscle.
Right. She believes his lower economic status makes him a safe bet for her unconventional experiment.
Okay, that sets the stage for a truly jaw-dropping conversation. Padma decides he is the one, and she actually proposes to him.
She does.
But it is a highly unconventional proposal for the time. She asks him to move into her luxurious bungalow, laying all her wealth, her servants, and her property at his feet.
Everything.
The terms are simple. They will live together without getting married. She just wants his love.
It is a stunning, paradigm-shifting offer. She is essentially offering to bankroll his entire existence in exchange for his exclusive companionship. But Prasad's reaction is the crucial pivot point of the story. He doesn't just humbly accept his incredible good fortune. He makes a demand.
He does, and it's a massive red flag. He tells her he agrees to the arrangement, but on one very strict condition. He will not live in her house as a guest.
Right.
If he moves in, he insists he must live there as the master.
Which is just a masterclass in establishing dominance. Think about what Prasad is doing here.
Oh.
He is bringing zero financial capital to the table, yet he immediately neutralizes her financial power by claiming psychological authority.
By demanding to be the master in a house she entirely owns.
Yes, he is testing her boundaries before he even packs his bag.
And she agrees. This fierce, independent lawyer who dominates men in the courtroom eagerly agrees to this condition, promising to be his devoted partner. Why on earth would she concede that ground?
Because she is desperate to prove her worldview is correct.
Wow. Okay.
She needs this unconventional arrangement to work to validate her entire philosophy. If she can secure his love by giving him the title of master, she views it as a small price to pay for a life free of legal marriage chains.
So she gives up her power willingly.
Willingly, masking her submission as a free, enlightened choice.
So they move in together, and the honeymoon phase begins. But the shift in their dynamic happens at an incredible speed. Prasad immediately abandons his modest 200 rupee lifestyle. How quickly does he acclimate to Padma's wealth?
Instantly. He adopts a life of extreme luxury entirely on her dime. He drops his modest habits, starts drinking heavily, orders the most expensive suits, and even gets his own car.
Unbelievable.
It is a complete parasitic takeover of her resources.
And initially, Padma is perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
She actually finds joy in dressing him up and fulfilling his extravagant whims. She believes she is choosing to spoil him, which makes her feel empowered. But then, the psychological trap springs shut. Prasad brings in no money. He is entirely dependent on her, yet he somehow starts dominating her completely.
Yeah.
How does he flip the script so effectively?
He recognizes that her financial independence is a smokescreen hiding a massive emotional dependency.
Okay, explain that.
She needs this relationship to succeed to prove she was right to reject society. Prasad realizes that because there are no legal or societal guardrails holding them together, her fear of him leaving gives him absolute control.
Oh.
He effectively weaponizes her own ideology against her.
It sounds a lot like what we would call emotional or financial abuse today, just wrapped in the guise of a progressive lifestyle.
That is exactly what it is. In a traditional marriage of that era, as flawed as it was, society or family might intervene if a husband behaved atrociously. There's a social contract.
Right, there were expectations.
Here, Prasad answers to no one. He knows Padma won't turn to her peers or society for help because society is already judging their living arrangement. She has isolated herself on this island of her own making, and he is the only other inhabitant.
And the disrespect becomes incredibly blatant. He stops treating her like an equal partner. The sources detail how he starts coming home incredibly late.
Yes.
And when she waits up for him, sick with worry, and asks where he's been, he doesn't even bother to craft a good lie.
No. He offers these flimsy, insulting excuses, claiming he had a headache while he's been out all night. He takes her car out on the town, leaving her waiting up at the bungalow until midnight.
Just completely disregarding her.
And every time he pushes the boundary and she stays silent or forgives him, he learns that there are no consequences. He is systematically breaking down the brilliant lawyer and molding her into an anxious, subservient figure.
The situation hits a breaking point when Padma becomes pregnant. This brings us to a really difficult phase of the story. The physical and emotional toll on her is staggering.
It really is.
The text draws a sharp contrast between the vibrant, untouchable professional she used to be and her new reality. She becomes physically heavy, pale, and constantly consumed by sadness and anxiety.
And while she is undergoing this profound and vulnerable transformation, Prasad's behavior devolves into outright cruelty.
Yeah.
He doesn't even attempt to hide his disdain. While she is pregnant and miserable, tethered to the home, he openly flaunts his freedom. He starts taking a young female student out to the cinema.
A brazen display of disrespect.
Completely brazen.
So Padma finally reaches her limit. She gathers the courage to confront him about these late-night outings. You would hope, given everything she has provided for him, that he might show a shred of remorse. But Prasad goes completely on the offensive.
He aggressively rebukes her for daring to question him. It is classic deflection and manipulation.
Yeah.
He turns his own misbehavior into a critique of her lack of trust or her nagging. And because Padma is so worn down by the pregnancy, the isolation, and the gradual erosion of her self-esteem, she doesn't use those formidable courtroom skills to fight back.
She breaks down in tears and completely surrenders.
Yes.
And that surrender marks Prasad's total psychological victory. Which leads us right into the climax of the story, and it's just agonizing.
It's hard to read.
Padma goes into labor. She goes through the terrifying, painful process of childbirth entirely alone, accompanied only by a hired nurse and a lady doctor. Prasad, the father of the child, the man whose entire luxurious existence she is funding, is nowhere to be found.
His absence during the delivery is the ultimate manifestation of his character. He eagerly consumed all the benefits of her wealth and affection, but the moment the situation required sacrifice, responsibility, or presence, he vanished.
But 5 days after the birth, we see a spark of the old Padma return. The text uses this incredible imagery, describing her feeling empowered by motherhood and comparing her to a naked sword.
That is a phenomenal metaphor, a naked sword.
Right.
A naked sword is sharp, exposed, lacking a protective sheath, but incredibly dangerous. The protective maternal instinct slices through the fog of Prasad's manipulation. She now has a life outside of her own ideals to protect.
And it gives her a sudden, brutal clarity about what she needs to do to survive.
Exactly.
So, operating with this new clarity, she decides to handle her affairs. She sends her office attendant to the bank to withdraw money to pay the medical bills from the delivery. She isn't panicked about the money because she had specifically saved a massive sum, 20,000 rupees, just for the baby's future and care.
And to put that into perspective, if 1,000 rupees a month was a fortune, 20,000 rupees in one account is a staggering amount of wealth.
It's huge.
It is the equivalent of a lifetime of financial security for that child.
So the office attendant returns, but he brings devastating news. Prasad didn't just abandon her during childbirth. He went to the bank, emptied the entire account of the 20,000 rupees, and fled to England.
And he took the young female student from the cinema with him.
The betrayal is breathtaking. He didn't just break her heart. He actively destroyed the safety net she painstakingly built for her newborn.
And the darkest irony is that he used the very lack of legal structure she advocated for to rob her blind.
Wow.
Because they had this unconventional arrangement, there was no legal friction to stop him. His access to her life and finances was based entirely on trust, a trust he completely weaponized.
The reaction from Padma is visceral. She doesn't just cry this time. She is filled with pure, unadulterated fury. She smashes Prasad's portrait to the ground and physically stamps on it.
Yeah.
She gathers all his remaining expensive belongings, the suits, the items she paid for, and sets them on fire. She literally spits on his name.
It is a physical purge. She is violently excising this parasite from her life. The illusion she clung to is completely shattered. She sees Prasad, and more painfully, she sees her own choices with brutal clarity.
Premchand ends the story with a remarkably bitter image that ties all of this together. Let's fast forward a month after the fire.
Okay.
Padma is standing alone at the gate of her massive bungalow, holding her fatherless child. As she stands there, she watches a carriage pass by on the road. Inside the carriage is a European lady, sitting comfortably with her husband and their baby.
The visual contrast is stark and intentional. On one side of the gate, you have Padma, alone, holding the physical consequence of her failed rebellion against societal norms.
Right.
On the other side, passing by in plain view, is the exact picture of the conventional, traditional life she had so proudly and publicly rejected.
The text points out that Padma, this fiercely independent woman who once scoffed at traditional marriage and looked down on women who accepted those chains, now looks at this conventional lucky couple with eyes full of longing and tears.
It is a devastating conclusion. And, Premchand isn't necessarily arguing that traditional marriage is a flawless institution.
Sure.
But he is highlighting the extreme danger of assuming that dismantling all societal structures automatically leads to a utopia. Padma wanted absolute freedom, but by removing all the rules, she inadvertently created an environment where a predator could operate without any checks, balances, or consequences.
So what does this all mean for us today? It leaves us with a really provocative thought to mull over, especially when we look at our modern world. Today, we see massive shifts in how people approach relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
We have the gig economy of dating apps, the rise of hyper-independence, and situationships where people actively avoid labels or commitments, claiming they just want the benefits of connection without the obligations.
It is a fascinating parallel. We champion this hyper-individualism in modern dating, much like Padma championed her independence. We avoid defining the relationship to keep our options open and protect our autonomy.
Yeah.
But the question is, does this modern lack of structure actually make us safer? Or does it just leave us entirely unprotected, creating a massive playground for people who want to extract emotional and physical benefits without ever being held accountable?
It really makes you wonder if movements like the recent rise of trad wives or the push for traditional gender roles on social media are actually a direct reaction to this exact fear. Are people looking back at the guardrails of tradition because the absolute freedom of modern dating feels too much like standing alone at the gate?
It's a powerful question.
It is a heavy, brilliant story that forces you to question where the line is drawn between true independence and deep vulnerability. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Munshi Premchand's Miss Padma. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment on the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.